Harlem Renaissance, New Negro Movement. The Harlem Renaissance was a cultural movement that emerged in the 1920s in the Harlem neighborhood of New York City. The movement was also known as the New Negro Movement, reflecting a newfound sense of pride and empowerment among African Americans. The Harlem Renaissance was characterized by a prolific flowering of literature, music, art, and intellectual thought. African American artists, writers, musicians, and thinkers from all over the United States and beyond converged in Harlem, creating a vibrant and dynamic cultural scene. The Harlem Renaissance was a time of artistic experimentation and innovation, with artists exploring new ways of expressing themselves and challenging traditional ideas about art and identity. The movement was inspired by the desire to create a new, positive image of African Americans in popular culture, countering the negative stereotypes that had long dominated mainstream media. African American writers during the Harlem Renaissance created some of the most important works of American literature, including the poetry of Langston Hughes and the novels of Zora Neale Hurston. African American musicians during the Harlem Renaissance, such as Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong, helped to create a new form of music that became known as jazz. The Harlem Renaissance also saw the emergence of new dance styles, such as the Charleston and the Lindy Hop, which became popular around the world. The visual arts were an important component of the Harlem Renaissance, with artists such as Aaron Douglas and Palmer Hayden creating powerful works that celebrated African American culture and history. The Harlem Renaissance was also marked by a strong sense of community, with artists and intellectuals collaborating and supporting each other's work. Many African American thinkers during the Harlem Renaissance, such as W.E.B. Du Bois and Alain Locke, sought to explore and define what it meant to be Black in America. The Harlem Renaissance was a significant moment in the struggle for civil rights, with artists and writers using their work to challenge racism and discrimination. The movement had a profound impact on American culture, influencing the development of literature, music, and art in the decades that followed. The Harlem Renaissance was also a time of international influence, with African American artists and intellectuals forging connections with artists and thinkers around the world. Many important African American institutions, such as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, were founded during the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance was a time of contradictions, with artists and intellectuals grappling with issues of race, gender, and class. Some critics of the movement saw it as a form of assimilation, with African American artists and writers seeking to prove their worth to white audiences. Others saw the Harlem Renaissance as a celebration of African American culture and a rejection of dominant white culture. Despite its limitations and contradictions, the Harlem Renaissance remains an important moment in American cultural history. The movement helped to inspire future generations of African American artists and writers, and it continues to influence American culture today. The Harlem Renaissance also helped to create a new sense of pride and identity among African Americans, paving the way for the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s. Ultimately, the Harlem Renaissance was a celebration of African American creativity, talent, and resilience in the face of adversity.